Welcome. So, you're living in New Zealand, you've decided to homeschool, woohoo, go you, and now you have to go through the application process. You've got to apply for an exemption from the Ministry of Education. So why don't we fill one out together, step by step, and you can see exactly what's needed if you're using functional education as one of your providers for one lot of resources that'll help along your homeschooling journey. But before you get started filling in the exemption form, first of all, you've got to work out that using functional education is something that you align with your family's morals, values and beliefs, and that the way that we're teaching is what you're looking for. So step one, go to the website, www.functionaleducation.com. There's a free trial. Click on the free trial. Select the class that you want to have a look at. That'll give you a 1 week free access. You can check out all the videos and you can see, does my child like learning via a video teacher? Did they like the lessons? Were they engaged? Did they enjoy them? If they did, fantastic. If they didn't, you're going to need to find some other resources and some other ways that you can educate your child at home. So first of all, make sure that they like video learning before you fill in an exemption form all about video learning. The second thing, on that same website, scroll to the bottom of that front page, all the way to the bottom. There's a ton of FAQ, frequently asked question things on here as well, but there's also a button called the blog. If you open the blog, thinking of homeschooling, and there's one here called our philosophy, our teaching philosophy. Give that a wee watch. It'll talk you through how we teach and why we teach the way that we teach, what we do in the junior school, what we do in the middle school, what we do in the senior school, where it's all handing, how it goes from largely teacher-led at the beginning through to largely student-led at the end, and that way you know what you're signing up for the entire journey. The other way to do it is on that exact same website is also the book, and there's a little tab at the top called Our Book, and it'll open it up and you can get the book ebook or hard copy, and if you don't want to watch the video, you can read the book. Easy. So now you've established that your child likes video learning, you as a family agree with the way that we teach and deliver lessons and the kind of content that we have, so now we're all on the same page. What's next? Well, we need to fill in the application form, but before we do that, there's a couple of people who can also help. So if you get stuck doing it this way, there's more support available. The first support available is NCHENZ. NCHENZ stands for National Council Home Educators New Zealand. National Council Home Educators New Zealand. Their site, NCHENZ, is an absolute goldmine of resources and support and where to find your local homeschooling groups and all sorts of stuff you can join and you can do, and it answers lots of questions. And they have a Facebook page that you can search for various articles. I highly recommend, before you get into homeschooling, that you familiarise yourself with all the things that you've got available, because there's a ton of stuff. We have the most amazing homeschooling support network, and it's all driven by NCHENZ. The other person that would pay to get familiar with is Cynthia Hancock's. She is our guru of homeschooling in New Zealand. She's fantastic, and she represents and speaks on behalf of the homeschooling community at government level. She writes a guide for how to fill in a home education exemption form, and I've got her thing here, exemption guide, Cynthia Hancock. So I've opened that tab. You can purchase her guide. She has an entire team working alongside her. That helps you. You can buy her guide and fill it in, and she even has a team available in person that you can send your application to. So if you get stuck working with it with me and it's just too tricky, go and plug into those resources. We are so blessed in this country to have this incredible network of skilled home educators who have been doing this a long time, and they're really good at what they do, and they come with a wealth of knowledge. So without any further ado, let's have a look at our application. Now, the Ministry of Education is not asking you to put in an exemption. A form. so that they can be a pain. They're not doing it to be a pain. What they're exemption, that's what I was looking for. What they're doing is they're helping you prep your journey. This form is not a curse. This form is a blessing. Because by the time you have gone through this form, you've had to ask yourself a whole heap of questions. You know, what do I stand for? Why am I doing this? How am I going to deliver these resources? Where am I going to source this from? What's my day going to look like? How are we going to tackle a project? What's learning actually going to look like in our household? You've actually had to sit down and have these conversations as you fill in this form. So by the time you get to the end of filling in this form and you go to submit it to the ministry, you're like, I'm full of confidence. I'm full of excitement. I am so keen to get on this journey and I know what I'm doing now. I can't wait. That's what I believe the purpose of the form is for. It's to get you organised and on a path so that you know what it is you want to do and what your outcomes are. It's kind of like compulsory planning, which is not a bad thing, because if you just went, oh, I'm going to homeschool it, and you didn't have to fill out any paperwork, what are your goals? Where are you heading? What are you doing? Where are you getting your resources? Who's going to help you? You just kind of waft along. But this form lets you really have good conversations in your household. Where are we going with this, kids? What are we doing? What inspires us? Oh, it's so good. So let's have a look at the form. Now, we've got forms available for classes 1 to 9 because that's the range that we cover. Junior school, middle school, intermediate, and first 2 years of secondary. I've picked one in the middle, the class 5 form. So when you're coming on board with functional education, you let us know which class you're coming in and we give you the starter pack, and that gets you started. So we're going to be looking at a class 5 starter pack. They're similar through the 9 classes, but not the same, because of course all the learning goals change depending on what class you're in. Let's have a look at a starter pack for class 5. It starts here, Home Education Application from the Ministry of Education. You download this for free off the internet or we provide you one. It's got a checklist of things for you to check off to make sure you include. It just wants the child's name and date of birth and address and stuff and what school they used to attend if they've ever attended a school, and then the parents' contact details. These are all just basic information of who are you, where do you live, and because each office for each region, your application goes to the closest ministry office to the main region that you live in. And it says here, have you had help received in this application? And the answer is yes, you've received some help from us. Now, it says here, section 2, as well as. There are 2 things you have to show in your application. That your child is going to be learning as well as and as regular as if they were going to a mainstream school. That does not mean 6 hours a day, because we can do at home in only a couple of hours what it takes school 6 hours to do, because we don't have 30 children or 35 children to corral. We don't have to worry about bell times ringing every 45 minutes. We don't have to worry about set up, get your instructions, pack down, clear this, wash your hands, line up, do here, walk to the next class, interruptions, stop talking, you stop talking, I'm going to work with this group while you work. Lots of time gets lost in a mean busy classroom. No offense to busy classrooms, it's just how it is when you've got 30, 35 kids in a busy classroom. You lose a lot of time. With distractions and shifting and instructions and stuff. At home, we don't have those. So we can do the same amount of learning in a shorter period of time, in a couple of hours in the morning, for example. So we are learning as well as, but in a shorter time frame, because we can focus and concentrate and get on with the task. As regular as means, are you doing some form of learning each day? It doesn't mean you have to go, I have science period 1 on Monday and maths period 2 and I have social studies period 3 and I have... They're saying, are you going to be learning at the same kind of level that your peers will be learning at school? And will you cover all sorts of different fields of learning? And if you're following our program, the answer is yes. These are the fields of learning that they're looking at. They want you to be able to make sure your children are obviously thinking, they're problem solving, they're self-managing, they're self-starting a task, getting on with it, completing it, they're participating and contributing in some form of learning, they're using language and symbols and text, they're reading and writing. And they're coming in to relate to a diverse range of people in a variety of contexts. Well, of course they are in homeschooling. We'll be doing all of these kinds of things. And every time you go to the library, you're interacting with people. Every time you go to the store, you're interacting with people. Getting on and off buses, you're interacting with people. You're having polite conversations. You're learning to be respectful. You are meeting people at homeschooling art groups and at drama groups and at sporting groups and at hobbies and at swimming lessons and at play groups and you're going on field trips to the museum and to the art gallery or to the library or to the local park. You're meeting a range of people all the time, of all different age groups, and being able to respectfully communicate and interact with a range of people. Homeschoolers have this bit nailed. We're so social and we're so out there in the community meeting so many people that this bit's a breeze. What else are they expecting of us? They're expecting of us at a mainstream school, children will be covering all sorts of things around, English and health and maths and social sciences and language and science and technology and arts. So they're saying, well, at school, your child's going to be exposed to all these different kinds of learning experiences and all these subjects. Will you be doing something at home that also exposes them to all sorts of different kinds of subjects? The answer is, when you're following the Functional Ed program, of course you will. We teach all of these subjects. So that's not a problem. Now, at this point in time, this is where we cut and paste from our website. When I give you the application starter pack, into here we cut and paste from our website the goals for what are we doing in maths, what are we doing in the arts, what are we doing in the... And we find these. Let's go and have a look, see where we find these. Open up a tab. Let's go functional education. Go. Here we go. Courses. Curriculum overview. Let's look at class 5. Here it has, there's some demo videos of what class 5 looks like, but here it has a thing on, this is what we cover in maths. This is what we cover in English. This is what we cover in the arts. This is what we cover in science. This is what we cover in technology. So those things are all there for you, available as a free resource. Now, where's the form? You can cut and paste those directly into a blank form yourself, or our starter pack has those cut and pasted in for you. It's coming, the form's coming. So that's that first section. It wants to know, will you cover all those things? And the answer is yes. And you've got all of those paragraphs just cut and pasted in there. Now, some things are not in there. Health is not in there. Yes, we teach healthy snacks, and we do some gardening and bits and pieces, but health, how do you want to run health in your household? Are you going to get your kids to cook one night a week? Are they going to plant a small vegetable garden out the back? Will you go on nature walks or beach walks? Do they go bike riding? What sports do they play? How do they move their bodies? How are you covering healthy eating in your household? Is there a plan that you're all following together? And health is not just physical movement and nutrition, food. It's also mental health and social and emotional health. Do you have a faith? Do you belong to some form of church or group where they go and do that? How are they socially meeting their social and emotional needs for health? Do you practice a gratitude? Do you have a gratitude jar or a gratitude journal? Do you have a chill out zone in your house so that when somebody's overwhelmed and having a meltdown, they have a safe and quiet space that they can withdraw to. That's a big thing of mental health. Knowing I can withdraw out of my learning space and into my quiet space, and I can chill and I can calm and I can rebalance all the resources in my brain and until I'm ready again to start the next thing. So have a wee think about, I know how we'll do maths and science and social studies and English because we'll do those with Fran on the functional ed videos, but how will I do the social emotional health of my children at home? Just have a wee paragraph of what you're going to do. Daily walks or yoga or whatever it is that it is. Another thing is language. We provide te reo as a program in functional education. We've hired some incredibly brilliant te reo teachers who deliver an entire Māori curriculum for language, but you don't have to follow that one if you don't want to. You can pick any language. So if you'd like to pick a different language, let's say your family's planning on going to Spain or something for a holiday. You can get really excited together as a family. In 2 years' time, we're all going to Spain, and so we're going to learn our Spanish phrases, and we're going to label things in the house with Spanish labels on them, and we're going to use Spanish greetings, and we're going to try some Spanish dishes, and you can really get involved in it as a family. And as a family, you can use language, and they can put that in that section for language. This is what we're doing as a family because we're planning a trip. So it doesn't have to be just sit down, do some standard lessons. You can have some super duper fun with this. Okay, what comes next in the application? Page 2, page 3, here we go. What resources do you intend to use, and are you delegating any teaching responsibility? Yes, you're delegating some teaching responsibility to us for English and maths and science, those kinds of core subjects. So some of the delegations coming to us, but also you might be delegating music lessons to the piano teacher. You might be delegating swimming lessons to the local swimming club. Taekwondo lessons. You might be going to Nana's to learn how to knit. You could be going to an art class. There's all sorts of resources available. Now, our application comes with a big resource equipment list that attaches in here for you as an attachment with all the kinds of things you need. Pens and paper and scissors and glue and paint and math books and blank spelling books and all that kind of stuff. So we give you a big list of things, but this is where you add in. Like, what other resources have you got? This is where you look around your home and go, you know what? We've got basketballs and basketball hoops. We've got soccer goals. We've got bikes. We've got scooters. We've got a library card. We've got access to the beach. We've got access to the bush and we can learn foraging. We've got access to grandma. We've got access to the local marae or our local church. There are so many resources around you. And all of them provide awesome learning opportunities for your kids. So have a real think. What have I got available? I've got this awesome farm, or I've got this garden. I've got a patio outside where we can put some garden boxes and the kids can grow tomatoes and cucumbers. It doesn't have to cost a lot of money. Not at all. And you can use people around you. Use your extended whānau, your extended family. They're awesome. It's so exciting. The learning doesn't have to be stuck in one room behind a desk filling out a book. Learning can happen everywhere. So think of all these different resources you've got available. We'll give you the basic list of what you need in the classroom, and now you add in all the other things. What's next? This is where you tick yes that functional ed will deliver some of your bits, but you can also put your swimming teacher, your music teacher, your taekwondo teacher, all that kind of stuff in there too. Section C. What are your educational goals for the next 12 months? And how will you know you've met them? In that section, we've taken for each class direct learning goals from the curriculum. From the New Zealand curriculum. In class 5, your child should be doing this in maths by the end of the year. They should be doing this in English, they should be doing this in art, they should be doing this in science. And we've cut and pasted them in for you. But this is also where you can have a think about other learning goals. We'll take care of the English, Maths and Science for you. What other learning goals do you have? Do you have some social goals? Is your child suffering from anxiety? Perhaps you've got some social goals around them joining something or making a friend. Perhaps they've got some physical movement goals and maybe they need to attend a 6-week or an 8-week physiotherapy course this year to get some physical movement into their body. That's a learning goal. Perhaps there's a goal around contributing to the household, maybe learning to cook once a week, or perhaps they're going to take over a role like their own laundry, and they're going to put their own laundry out once a week. They're going to put it in the machine, they're going to hang it on the line, and then they're going to fold it and put away, just their laundry. Maybe that's a social goal. These are all learning goals. There's all sorts of goals that you can have for your children. Maybe they're going to learn to ride public transport, and they're going to learn how to purchase a ticket and how to read the bus or train timetable, and then they're going to take the bus or train into the library and do transfers and be able to get themselves navigated to and from. Obviously not for the 5-year-olds, but maybe for the 10-year-olds or 12-year-olds. Maybe that's a learning goal about independence and being able to manoeuvre around their local community using public transport. There's all sorts of learning goals that they could have. We'll give you the basic core ones, and then you add in some learning goals which are important for your family. Maybe there's a learning goal about learning 12 phrases in Spanish because your family's going to Spain in 2 years and you're going to practice. Think of some goals. What else is on the form? This is all filled in when it comes from us. What's your vision for your child's long-term educational achievement? This is a neat one. I love this one. You get to really stop and have a conversation in your household. What do I really want for you? My beautiful children, what do I really want for you? I want you to be academically equal to your peers so that we live in the information age. That's the age that we live in now. We live in the information age. Information is bombarding us via all sorts of mediums, and a lot of that is via internet and stuff, and you have to be able to read stuff. So I want my children to be able to thrive in the information age. I want them to be able to read and discern information that's coming at them. I want them to be able to comprehend and understand. I want them to be able to be respectful. I want them to be able to have executive functioning skills. I want them to be able to have a task given to them. They can then initiate the start of that. They can plan out what needs to be done in sequential order. They can undertake that task. They can, when it gets gnarly and they get stuck, they can problem solve around it. They know how to ask for help. They can be creative. They can produce something. They can finish it and hand it in on a deadline. They can produce quality work that they themselves are personally proud of. These are all wonderful visions. I want my child to be resilient. I want my child to have empathy. I want my child to be able to interact with various age groups. I want them to be able to walk into a store and respectfully speak to a store owner. I want them to be able to go to a library, punch in something into the computer, find their way, navigate their way through the library system, take out the books with the correct numbers on the shelf, go and interact with the library service desk and speak and interact politely. I want them to be able to navigate the public transport system. I want them to be able to help around the house. I want them to be able to mentor and tutor their younger siblings. I want them to take their share of the loading. As well as I want them to be curious. I want them to be able to study what they want to study. I want them to be involved in their passions. I want them to spend some time of their day doing academic stuff, but then I want them to spend the rest of their day doing other kinds of learning. I want them to be whittling and building and sculpting and crafting and doing stuff that inspires them. I want the light to stay on in their eyes. I want them to be lifelong learners. I want them to be less judgmental and more embracing of others' cultural differences around them. There are so many things that we want for our kids. This is where you really get to sit down and go, what do I want from you? And pop it in there. We put a small paragraph to get you going, but you go wild in this section. This is a neat section to fill out. What else is next? Give a detailed description of a special project or a topic plan that you will do, or describe one you've done in the past. This is the ministry helping us get organised, going, okay, righty-ho team, if you want to get your kids to study something that they're passionate in, because that's what you've just said in the section above. You've just said you want your kids to be passionate, you want them to learn things that they want to learn, you want them to study stuff that they're interested in. That's all fine and well. But how would you actually practically make that happen? So this is where you get the chance to practice a topic plan. Okay, my child is massively interested in weaponry, swords and shields and stuff like that. How could I design a project about swords and shields if they're interested in weaponry? Well, we could learn how to take public transport and get ourselves to the library. Once we get to the library, we can learn to use the entire library system of how you type it into the search engine in the computer, then how those numbers take you to the right books on the shelf, and we can learn that entire Dewey Decimal classification system of how to find books on swords and weaponry in the correct section. Then we can learn research. We can learn how to skim and scan through some research books, because of course when we're doing research books we don't read every single word of every single research book. We skim and scan to the sections that we want to. That's a really good skill to learn, how to skim and scan and mark the pages with a little sticky on the bits that have got relevant information that you want. And then you check these books out. And then what might you do about swords? Well, you might do a little brief poster about them. You might get some young green wood off a local cherry tree, which is a pest and it's growing around the neighbourhood somewhere, and you might whittle yourself a gorgeous sword. You might watch some YouTube videos and build a little tiny brick forge in the backyard with a bit of steel rebar and learn how to bash out a little bit of a metal sword. You could go to a field trip to the local museum and look at swords. You could do some research on how have swords changed throughout the years. You know, what's a Japanese weaponry sword like? What's a Chinese one like? What's an African one like? What's a Roman sword like? Did they use swords in South America or North America prior to the big discoverers going out? You know, did all populations have a sword, or was swords something that came from Europe only, or did they develop in Asia as well? There's all sorts of stuff you could do around swords. You could make a poster. You could make you could bake a sword cake. You could do a speech or presentation to your family. All the time they're learning. You can watch some YouTube videos. There's so many things you could do about swords. And this is the cool thing. This is where you get your child involved and you're actually having heart-to-heart conversations with them. What do you like doing, love? What are you interested in? You're interested in swords. Awesome. Let's you and I together shape you an incredible project that you would love to do. So you're actually, instead of an authority figure dumping requirements down in front of your child saying, here, do this, your child's actually co-creating the project with you, and it's hitting all the buttons that they want to study. So this is the ministry going, I love that you want your child to study what they're passionate about, but show me the kinds of things they're going to do when they do this learning. And what happens at the end of this is you get so much excitement and so much confidence. You're like, yeah, my child and I, we can totally do this and learn it together and have a great time doing it. And it just fills you with confidence going, I'm loving homeschooling. What's next in the application? So that was section E, detailed description about the topic plan, about a topic. As regularly as, this is like a timetable or a program. Now, this does not mean 8 a.m. get up and have breakfast, 9 a.m. come and sit in the dining room. First we do maths, then we do English, then we do it. By 10 a.m. we take a snack break, by 11 a.m. because homeschooling doesn't work like that. Homeschooling is not school at home. Homeschooling is more flexible, and we actually move with the natural rhythms of the seasons and the natural rhythms of our child's development. Our little ones might be out of bed bright and early and 6 and 7 o'clock in the morning, and they've had breakfast and they want to get into their learning. But our teenagers at age 14 aren't. Their melatonin levels are all over the place. Their body is being flooded with 200 hormones that arrives in a 1 year period. They have to do an entire transformation of their physical body. Their entire jaws have to change. Their shoulders have to broaden. Their skeletal structure is growing. Their legs are thickening. Everything's getting covered in hair. They've got hormones going everywhere. They might not fall asleep until 11 or quarter to 12 at night. It's not their fault. Their melatonins and stuff are all over the place when they're 14 and 15. Dragging them out of bed at 8 o'clock the next morning to sit them onto a timetable is not working with their natural rhythms. So the teenagers might sleep later in the morning, and then they get up, and then by lunchtime their brains are awake, they're fueled, they're ready, and they have a powerful afternoon of learning. Whereas the young ones might knock it out first thing in the morning. It just depends on what kind of household. It depends on the seasons. It depends on what's going on. Perhaps you've got a massive farm that you're running and everybody's required for the harvest for a week. And there's an enormous amount of work going on the farm for a week. And then after that, everything settles back down again. There's plenty of time. So don't lock yourself into a school timetable, but do lock yourself into a steady timetable that says, I will ensure that there is learning going on each day. At some point in this day, we will cover these types of academic topics. So we might do our academic learning in the morning and our more hands-on natural learning in the afternoons, our cooking and our baking and our gardening and our building and our library visits and our hobbies and our sports and our music. We might do our academics in the morning and our other stuff in the afternoon. So you create a fluid timetable. We've got one in here as an example for you, but we create a fluid kind of timetable which shows that there will be appropriate learning going on each day. You are aiming to do actual learning each day, but you're not doing 45-minute blocks of each subject because it's not school. Make sense? Makes sense. Let's carry on. We're almost at the end. You're doing really well. Section 4, other information which is optional. Now, you don't have to fill this in, but I recommend it. This is your story of why you're choosing to homeschool. Listen, we all know the system's broken. We also know, and we don't blame the schools and blame the teachers because, they're on the coalface trying to fix it. We're all of us educational providers are trying to do our bit to fix it. The ministry and stuff can only fix systems if they understand where they're broken. This is a really nice opportunity for you to say, hey, we tried school, but this is what didn't work for us. That lessons were too loud, or the rooms were too fast and busy, or there were too many people, or there was a serious amount of bullying, or the work was too easy, or the work was too hard, or whatever it was. Or maybe you haven't started school yet, and maybe you're choosing, I choose to spend these precious years with my children. I choose to give them an education that has the morals and the ethics and the values that we stand for. I choose to give them the one-on-one time to lay those foundations. I choose to put in here some reasons. You don't have to, it's optional. But you know, the more data that the ministry gathers from the thousands of people who are choosing this incredible opportunity to school their kids at home, educate their kids at home, the more data they gather about what people are really looking for and what's giving them great success, maybe the more they can start tweaking the old system. Maybe they could even fix it, change it, who knows? What else have we got? We've got a bunch of attachments usually that come in at about this point. Where are they? So we'll attach you some timetable samples, we'll attach you some equipment lists and resources lists, and we'll attach you a sample of planning forms. So this is, you know, India. Now these planning forms, I love these planning forms. These planning forms are self-reflection forms. So instead of an external authority figure that your child hands their work into, and this external authority figure marks, ticks and crosses and tells them what they did or didn't do right. These planning forms have been designed for you and your child to reflect together. They're reflecting on their own educational journey. They're questioning and asking themselves. They're asking themselves things like, you know, these values, did I put any of these values into this latest topic that we covered this month? You know, was I striving for excellence in my work? Was I being innovative or curious? Did I have to use respect anywhere, like going to the library and interacting with people? Did I have to have any participation or in community in any way, shape or form to get this information? Was there any environmental focus for me? Did I have to use a value of integrity when I conducted myself in these? They're asking themselves different questions. How was I and my behaviour when I undertook this learning? Because I am responsible for how I show up in the world and the effort that I put in. It's not for another force to either, carrot draw or stick driven. It's about what am I putting into it? Because that's in my control. It's also here about, these are some key competencies. Did I manage myself? Did I start on time? Did I put out some planning? Did I complete the task? Did I achieve everything that I was meant to? Did I relate well to others? Did I ask politely when I needed things? Did I organise my time around others? Did I get myself to the library on time to get the stuff that I needed? Was I really using some serious thinking? Was I reading, writing, doing, what kinds of stuff was I doing? And in this unit, and this is cool, what kinds of stuff did I cover? I might be studying ancient India, but what did I do during that ancient India topic for the last month? Well, yes, I did some speaking because I had to learn a poem, and I did some writing because I was telling stories, listening to stories, and I had to write them in my book. And I presented one of those stories to my family. I was telling them at the table all about the story. I had to listen to the videos. I had to do quite a bit of reading, and I had to view the videos. I had to do some geometry and measurement because we were doing Indian mandalas, and I had to create and draw a beautiful Indian mandala with my compass. I was learning a lot about social sciences because I was learning all sorts of things about India. I was actually doing quite a bit about technology because we were cooking and we were having feasts. I learned some yoga. We also did an Indian dance, and I made a beautiful Indian sand mandala. Oh my gosh, I've just realised that in that 1 month topic, I covered like 10 different types of learning in that one topic. This is about making the child aware of where all their learning is coming from and how varied it can be. And it is as creative as they choose to make it. And they have a say in how creative it is. So if they get to the end of a topic and they've decided they're bored and they've only ticked one thing on there, you can actually have a conversation with them and go, well, you only ticked one thing on there, you just wrote an essay. What made you choose to just write an essay? Could you have introduced any of these other elements? Could you have made it more curious? Could you have inquired more? Could you have branched out and been more artistic? You can have some fantastic one-on-one conversations. What else have we got? this is just some advice. This just shows all the different ways you can bring it in for a kinesthetic learner, or for a visual learner, or for an auditory learner, all the different things that can come in. These are some key resources that we've used for that topic, so that if parents want to go and find some of these resources, they can. And then this is a sort of a topic outline, for that month. These are the kind of stories that we were covering. This is how we were doing gratitude and mandalas and quotes from Buddha and stuff. This is we were investigating spices and what spices do in the food. We were learning music songs. We were doing some Indian beaded embroidery, and there was all sorts of stuff going on in that lesson. Now the next bit here is really awesome. It's a reflection and an evaluation. This is where you get to sit down with your child at the end of that month topic, and you get to have a cup of tea and a conversation. When was the last time somebody had the time to sit with them and just talk about their learning? So what did you enjoy most about that topic? What did you think you did really well? Was there anything that you felt that you struggled with? And what would we do next time to help you get over that? Did you find enough challenge in it? Did you find that you asked yourself enough inquiry questions? How could we next time maybe change that up? You can have this incredible conversation over a cup of tea at the end of one of these, because these planning forms are at the beginning of each of the modules. And so you come to the completion of the module, and then you sit down together and you go through it, and you're like, how much better is that than getting in the car at the end of the day going, did you have a nice day? Did you learn anything? I don't know. Yeah, it was all right. I don't know. Instead, because they're learning at home with you and they hear this incredible story and they just can run to you and go, oh my gosh, I just learned this cool thing, while it's fresh in their mind. And then they share it with you, and then you can get engaged in a conversation, and there's dialogue about it, and there's reflection, and there's goal setting, and it's just such a beautiful thing to do for education. It really takes it out of the surface level, farmed out to somebody else, and brings it home between the two of you. And you can grow it in any way you want to, and however you want to, whatever suits you. Can you see that these planning applications are a gift, not a burden? Because once you've gone through this process and filled it in, you will be so excited to get started on homeschooling. What's the last little bit that we add? We add a year plan so that you can see all the 10 modules that we're covering that year, and what we're covering in movement, for brain movement, and in gratitude, and spelling, and language classes, and writing, and reading, in the main topic class that we're doing, and nutrition, and music, and maths, and in the arts. So you can see for the year what the focus is, so that you've got a guide, and you go, you know what? I know that at the end of this year, my child's going to come out with all of this learning, but we're going to have done it in such a way that suits our household in the interests of our child. And we've had these incredible learning conversations on the way, and we've been able to give them this time. Isn't homeschooling awesome? If you get stuck filling out the application, let me know. Otherwise, get hold of Cynthia Hancock's and one of her team with the Exemption Guide, or get hold of NGens. They have a ton of resources. Enjoy the planning process. You're well on your way to the most exciting, precious, precious time for those few years where we get to nurture alongside them before they grow and leave home, which happens all too quickly. Have a great day.